Hey everybody, it's Dana and welcome back. Today I'm going to share with you 3 ways to use the new Decofoil flock transfer sheets. So let's go ahead and get started. I first saw this product at Creativation and I fell in love with it, as well as this Decofoil Metallix gel. These two products work perfectly together. Now the flock I'm using today is the black, and look how rich this flock is. It's super easy to use. You can die cut with it. You can add backgrounds with it. It is simply a perfect addition to our cards, and it feels like velvet. So for these two products today, I am going to do a little bit of stenciling. So I'm going to use the new Pixie spray, which is a light tack that you can put on the back of your stencils to hold them in place. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I am going to bring in a little box, and this is just going to help me spray that Pixie spray on the back of my stencil without getting it everywhere. Okay, so this is a light spray that you put on and it makes your stencils repositionable. So I'm just going to shake that up a little bit and put just a fine layer of this down. You don't want to add too much of this product. Now, the only thing you need to do is just pull this out of the box, set it aside, and let it dry for about approximately a minute. I am going to tilt my can over and get out some of the air before I go ahead and cap this off. Next, I'm going to come back in with that gorgeous black flock sheet. I mean, look how gorgeous this black is. And I'm going to go ahead and trim this down. I am going to trim it down a little bit smaller than a normal 4¼ by 5½ inch card, because I do want to have a little border around this when I do place it onto my card panel. Now, since I have that done, we can go ahead and get on to the stenciling part. I am working on a glass mat, so I do want to tape my flock down. Now, in order to do this, I'm just grabbing some of the purple tape. I'm going to fold it back on itself and just place this right on the back. And this is going to keep my flock from shifting and moving on that glass mat. Now, since I have that down, I can go ahead and reach for that stencil. And the stencil has dried back and it's tacky. And this is going to allow me to place it down right over that flock without having to worry about using extra tape, like the purple tape, let's say. This, I just have to press the stencil down. I'm just doing some light rubbing, and that makes this sticky, but it does not leave a residue on your paper. So that's what's so great about this Pixie spray. All right, now for the fun. I'm going to use a Decofoil Metallix gel, and this is in a gorgeous champagne color. Now I'm going to grab a palette knife, and I want you to see how beautiful this product is. I've already had a chance to play with it, and it is so creamy. The consistency of it is not like embossing paste per se. It's almost like a maybe like a lotion, a really thick like butter lotion, or like maybe like a face product like sunscreen. So it has some consistency to it, but it's not overly thick, and it goes on really smooth. So as you can see, I like to start at the top of my stencil and drag my product down into my stencil. If you want to see any other videos on how I make backgrounds for my cards, I'll go ahead and put a little link up here in the corner, and I'll also put it in the description box below. I love making backgrounds for cards, even if I don't use them right away. It just gives me the opportunity when I need a really quick card. I already have a panel done for it. And what better than have a panel that looks this gorgeous? Now I am just using most of that product, and now I'm just kind of putting it directly onto the piece of flock itself. I'm trying to get a really good even layer of this product. I'm just going to add a little bit more. I just want to make sure all that black area is covered, because usually when you do this, it's like a one-shot time to do it. So I just want to make sure I get it right. I am going to scrape back all of that excess in there. And now I'm going to come in with this Stencil Pal. This little Stencil Pal has become my friend. It allows me to get things pretty smooth when I'm stenciling. If I'm using embossing paste, this gel for instance, it allows me to just very lightly and evenly go across my stencil, and that's going to help me to remove a lot of that excess product that I might have on there that I really don't need to have. And then I can just go ahead and scrape that back off right into the container. And I'm going to do that one more time. I'm very lightly just skimming this across. Another feature of this is that you can get a little bit of texture if you want to as well with this Stenciling Pal. So it's like my new favorite. So I have a little bit of texture in there, which is really, really pretty. But now I want to make sure I clean off all my tools. So I'm going to make sure to grab a wet paper towel and get that gel off of that stenciling pal so I can use that later. And I'm also going to make sure to clean off my palette knife. Now, when I'm done with the stencil, I'm going to put that stencil in a little container that has some hot water and a little bit of Dawn dish detergent to go ahead and start cleaning that stencil. This is the favorite part I love about stenciling is lifting up the stencil. And look how gorgeous that is. That black is fierce. It's not like the black of a regular cardstock. It is so beautiful and so rich. So now I'm just going to use my palette knife to pick that up. And look how gorgeous that is. I'll have all the products linked below for your shopping pleasure. All right, another way to use flock is to just die cut out a sentiment. Super, super easy. So I put this flock on some double-sided foam, also from Decofoil, and I just cut out a sentiment. It's super, super easy to do. Now, when you do run this through your machine, it's going to add pressure to that flock. So the flock is going to get a little bit more matted in color, but you're still going to have that gorgeous richness compared to if you just did it with black cardstock. I'm just going to grab my little pokey tool here and just pop out the center. And now I can save this to put on a card later. It's a super easy way to use these flock sheets, especially if you have it on that double-sided foam. It gives you some dimension. All right, the third way to use this, just grab yourself a little piece of the flock, and I'm going to put this into my MISTI. Now I want to heat emboss on this, and yes, you can heat emboss on this. You just gotta play your cards right on this one. The first thing you want to do is to make sure you grab an anti-static tool, because otherwise all your embossing powder is going to kind of stick to the grooves of this. Now don't worry about all the powder on there now. You can wipe that off a little bit later. Next, I'm going to come in with this gorgeous border die, or border stamp rather, that I picked up from Simon Says Stamp. I didn't have a chance to use it yet, so I thought it'd be perfect for this. I'm going to go ahead and use the oils of my palm to kind of lubricate or get some of the tackiness off of that stamp. I'm going to line it up over my piece of flock and then go ahead and press it down. I'll just pick up my flock and put it back in place. And now I'm ready to emboss. I'm using some ink on 3 ink today, and this is the clear embossing ink. And since this is a very fine lined stamp, I'm going to make sure that I get enough of that embossing ink on there. And then I can go ahead and close down my lid. Now I am going to rub very vigorously on this because it's a fine line. And remember, I'm going into that flock. I'm not going into paper. So it's going to have some texture and grooves to it. So I'm just going to make sure I rub that pretty hard. As you can see, I'm really putting some weight and pressure into that. And then I'm also going to go ahead and rub it or pat it while it's still on the stamp. This is just going to give me crisper lines because that's such a fine line detail. Now, you cannot see the lines yet on this because how deep that black flock is. But I am going to go ahead and bring in my embossing powder, and I'm going to be using the Gold Rush embossing powder from Ink on 3. This is such a beautiful gold color. And then I can go ahead and start sprinkling that onto this little strip. Now, the reason I didn't do a large piece of flock is because I want this to be an accent piece for a card. I don't need it to be the full card panel. So as you can see, I'm just sprinkling on that embossing powder, and then I'm just going to flick my finger on the back of it to get off any residue. I'm also using my breath to blow off any stray pieces, and I don't have to be exact. As you can see, I was a little off in the lineup, but this is fine because I'm going to trim this piece down. But you can see you can get a gorgeous design as well on this flock. So now since I have that done, I'm going to really start heating up my heat gun before I bring it to this flock. I don't want to burn the flock or like warp it in any way. So I'm getting that heat gun really nice and hot before I start melting this embossing powder. Now doing it on flock, you're not going to see right away like the transition that we would normally see on paper. So just be mindful. I'm kind of like tilting this so I can kind of see where it's melting and getting down into the grooves of that flock, because it's not going to be the same way as if you did it on regular paper. So I'm just going to go around very carefully. I have my heat gun kind of close to my flock, but I'm making sure that I'm not scorching it. And like I said, this is very, very hot. So once I can see that it has turned from like that dull gold to the color that it would normally be, look at that gorgeous design. I'm sorry that it didn't focus very well in my camera, but you can see all the beautiful swirls of that gorgeous stamp on flock. So it's perfect, perfect, perfect to heat emboss on. Now we're going to go ahead and get ready to finish up this card. So as you can see, I'm just going to use that flock right across the bottom of my card panel. But first I'm going to bring in my little hugs that we die cut out. And then look how gorgeous these two go together. Absolutely beautiful. Now all I have to do is peel off the backing of that double-sided foam. I'm going to line up my paper on my little mat, and then add this beautiful detail right to the bottom of my card. So I'll just go ahead and press that down in place, and just look how striking. Just having that little bit of texture and lift on the bottom of a card panel. Next, I'm going to come in and bring in the outline of that hugs, just so I can kind of see where it's going to line up on my card panel. Now, I also die cut this with some foam, double-sided foam on the back, because I want to have height to this already. So instead of having to add, excuse me, multiple layers, I just put it on a double-sided foam sheets, and I already have the lift, and it's perfectly all the way across. I'm just going to use my palette knife to kind of hold that beautiful hugs down really quickly so I can just get off the back. Now, as you can see, I have adhesive all the way on the back of this. I don't need any glue. I don't need to be messy with this. It's all done. Now I'm going to very gently, and as you can tell, it's really, really sticky, get my hugs lined up. And again, I'm just going to use my grid to kind of help me out here to make sure I'm straight. And then I can go ahead and pop that right above, leaving myself a little bit of white space so I can add a sentiment later. Excuse my big old head, but I needed to get like right on top of this card panel in order to lay down that gorgeous sentiment. So that hug sentiment, I believe it's from Simon Says stamp, and it's an older one, but it's one that I always go to. So look how gorgeous that card looks. A lot of texture, a lot of feel. That feel of that flock is phenomenal. All I'm going to do now is just grab my scissors, and I'm going to trim down the excess of that little piece that was at the bottom. And we're already on to the making of a gorgeous card. So I'll go ahead and trim that off, and look how beautiful that is. Now I do want to add a touch more gold to this. So I have cut down a piece of foil mirror cardstock. And this is going to help me pull in some of that gold from that design at the bottom. I'll use my Gina K little tape runner, adhesive runner. And this is a new little adhesive runner that I put in the side of my drawer on my desk because it's just perfect for just quick adhering things together without having to pull out my big old ATG gun. So I'll go ahead and line that up right on that gold foil piece. Again, I'm letting my grid help me out here. And then I'll line that up and go ahead and press that down. Now, having just that little bit of gold really pulls up that gold that we have on our panel. So it's just mirroring everything up really, really nicely. Now, I did want to stamp a little sentiment right below that hugs. So I'm using the You Got This stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. Now, I probably should have did this before I put down the panels because it's going to have height to it now. So I'm going to be bold and brave here and stamp on this after it's already been assembled. So I'm just going to line that up. I'm going to go ahead and grab my acrylic block, and we're going to pray that I don't mess this up. I'm using the cute acrylic block that's easy to handle from Pink and Main. You can find that over on the Pink and Main website. I love these little acrylic blocks. And then I'm going to use some Versafine ink for this. It is a very tiny sentiment, so I don't want to tap too hard on the ink, and I definitely don't want to press too hard on my card panel. So for this, I really need to get up on this card. So my head is going to be in the way. I'm really sorry about that. You're going to be able to see all those grays in my head. And then I can go ahead and press that down very gently. And now I didn't mess up my card. Thank you, Jesus. All right, so now since I have that done, I can go ahead and start putting this card together. I am using some Neenah Solar White 110-pound card base. That is my go-to card base. And I'm also using that Gina K tape runner. And now, as you can see, that's 3 ways to use this Decofoil. Deco flock. It's absolutely gorgeous. It comes in a variety of colors. And it's super, super pretty to use on your cards. And that's 3 ways of how to use that. I do want to add a little bit more pops of gold. So I'm going to grab out just a couple of these little flat back gems. And this, I believe these are from Pretty Pink Posh and they're metallic gold. So of course, we need to bring that in onto this card panel. And I'm just going to put some down, and it's just going to kind of go around that hugs and that sentiment, and it kind of makes everything look pretty together. I'll just go ahead and use this little pickup stick that I picked up from Amazon. I'll have that link below because it's my favorite. And I'll use some Gina K Connect glue. And then voila, we have a beautiful card. Now, you're not going to be able to go out and buy a card that looks like this from any other card place, not from, what is that place? Hallmark, not going to find it. You get to create your own custom made beautiful cards. And look, it was really, really easy to do. It was not complicated. All right, now let's go back and finish up this card. Now, I did have to have this panel dry for a couple hours because it's on flock and not paper. It was taking a while to dry. So just make sure you get this done, set it aside, start working on something else, and then come back to this. So you can see that there's little divots in this because it's not paper, right? It's the flock. I just want to make sure that my panel sits flush when I put it on my card. So in order for me to achieve that, I've just grabbed myself some black fun foam. And I think I picked up this fun foam from Amazon, or it was maybe Michael's, Hobby Lobby, one of those places. And I'm using my Gina K Connect glue. And that's going to allow me to put this beautiful speckled champagne and black flock sheet onto this. And it's going to have everything even on my card. And it's also going to allow me to have a tad bit of height on this card. Because you remember our last card, I had that great dimension. I want to have some dimension on this one too. So just go ahead and line up that piece right on to that black. And the reason I use black is because it will just fade in with the black flock. And that's what I want to make sure. I don't want to put white behind it because then you kind of see it from the side. But this way, if I use black, everything just kind of like seamlessly lays together. I'm going to go ahead and press that down. And I did see that I missed one little corner. So I'm going to go ahead and put some more glue there. And then I need something to weigh this down just for the time being as I work on other parts of this card. I just want to make sure that that foam, fun foam, adheres to the back of this. So in order for me to do this, I'm just going to grab some acrylic blocks and lay this right on top. And then I'll go ahead and move this out of the way so I can start working on other pieces. That's just going to give it a little bit of weight to get that glue and that flock and everything happy together. Next, I do want to add a sentiment on my card, but I don't want it to overpower my card. So I don't want to do a whole bunch of strips or anything. So I'm just going to use one sentiment. And this is, again, out of the You Got This stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. And I'm going to use that very large You Got This. I think that will work perfectly. A very clean and simple message on my card. And it really doesn't distract from anything. So I'm using some Neenah Solar White 100, nope, this is 80-pound cardstock. And I'm using my mini MISTI. I'll just press that in. Again, I'm going to use some of the oils from my hand to take off the tackiness of that stamp. And then I'm going to use my Versafine black ink to go ahead and stamp this down. Now, like I said, using flock 3 ways on a card is fantastic. You really get to get some longevity out of the product. So just make sure to kind of like think outside the box when you bring something into your craft room. I know I'm going to be using all of the flock. I mean, all of it, because it's absolutely gorgeous in so many colors. Just make sure that you just don't use it for one thing. Experiment with the items you bring into your craft room. That's what makes it fun. That's what makes it exciting. And you can start seeing your products in a totally different way. Next, I'm going to come in with my tonic trimmer. I've had this trimmer now for maybe about a month, and I have pretty much fallen in love with this little tool. The only thing I wish is that I could score on this, which I can't. But that's okay. That's, for another day. I'm just going to trim down this sentiment. I love, love, love the simplicity of this sentiment because it's really not going to fight with that gorgeous background we created. So I'm just going to line this up and chop it down, and I kind of just trying to get it even all the way around. I could have probably used a die for this. I really wasn't thinking ahead on this. But I'm just going to go ahead and chop this down, and I think we're going to be absolutely fine. Now I just have this gorgeous little sentiment, really clean and simple to put onto this panel. Next, I'm going to grab my scissors, and I just want to make sure to trim off any of that excess of that fun foam that we have. But you're going to see that just having this black fun foam really, it just kind of disappears behind this black flock. I'll trim that down, and then we can go ahead and get ready to put this onto a gorgeous card panel. I mean, look how beautiful that is. Absolutely stunning. All right, I'm going to grab myself another piece of Neenah Solar White 80-pound cardstock. You guys hear me say this a lot. This is like my go-to cardstock. Now, I did see I had a little bit of that black fun foam hanging out on the corner. So again, I'm just going to grab my scissors and just trim away that excess. Now, since I have that done, I really don't want to add too much more to this card because I don't want it to take away from the focal point of that gorgeous background we created with that Metallix gel. That Metallix gel is gorgeous, you guys. You have to get your hands on this stuff. I believe I have it in black as well, so I'll be doing that on another card soon. Make sure to swing by my Instagram too because I post a lot of stuff over there that you might not see in a video. All right, I'll go ahead and press that down. And then our card is pretty much done. Absolutely love how this background turned out. I'll go ahead and press that down, and using a liquid adhesive gives me a little bit of a wiggle room on this as well. Now for that sentiment, again, I'm just going to keep it clean and simple. I'm just going to place it right in the middle, and it pulls up some of that white from the base of my card. And I'll just use some double-sided tape for this because I do want to pop that up off of all of that gorgeous metallic. I just don't want to put it down flat. So this again is just going to give me a little bit more dimension. Now over on my blog, I will have some more close-up photos of these cards, and you might want to go over there and check it out because seeing this up on a closer level, it is absolutely stunning. All right, now since I have that tape right on the back, I'm just going to trim off just a smidget across the top. And then I can go ahead and pop this down onto my card panel. So as you can see, this flock stuff is gorgeous. Again, a variety of colors. It's like pink, yellow, I think like an orange color, a green, a white, and then this black. Black is my all-time favorite. Absolutely love it. So I'll go ahead and pop that down right on the center of that card. And then our two beautiful flock cards, 3 ways we use that gorgeous flock, are done. So I'll just go ahead and press that down right in the center. And look how easy that was. So we have 2 stunning cards. And I love black, white, and gold together. I think it's such a rich and regal look for a card. All right, everybody, that is going to wrap everything up today. Don't forget to subscribe. Give me a thumbs up if you like this. And I will see you guys in another video soon. Maybe we'll be working with more of the flock. I'll see you guys a little bit later. Take care and have a great day. Bye-bye.